are muted during the session, that would be really helpful. So for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm Lisa McBride. I'm the Senior Product Specialist at GN Hearing in Australia. On the call with me today, we have Michael Stockhammer, who is our Senior Account Manager and Product Specialist in New Zealand. We also have a few other members of the GN Hearing team on here with us today. So thanks so much for giving up an hour of your afternoon to spend with us, having a look at the different GN Hearing remote fine-tuning options. So for any of you that were on the call that we did on Wednesday we had a bit of an intro into the GN Hearing remote fine-tuning systems as a whole. And Michael previously did a session on a similar topic a couple of weeks before that. Or you may have had some training separately by your local account manager, product specialist. So in today's session, we're looking at taking this a little step further. So we're looking at how we can utilize this technology in different ways to help our clients at different kind of parts of their journey. So by the end of the session, you'll understand these different methods that we can use to make the most of this new technology. We'll have a look at the step-by-step processes for implementing this. And we'll all be aware of the different materials that we have to help us to implement this. Firstly, for those of you that weren't on the call on Wednesday, I just want to introduce you to our team because we have had a few changes and a few new recruits recently. So in Australia, I'm looking after the more north of New South Wales and the more central portion of New South Wales. In this area, I've also got my colleague Franz, who looks after the more central New South Wales as an account manager. We also have Anthea, who looks after the more south of New South Wales and product support for the majority of Queensland. In Queensland, we've also got John Bullion, who very recently started with the company. So he'll be excited to meet any of you up there as your new account manager. In Victoria, we have both Rick Hodgins and John Graham. So they will be supporting you as account manager and product specialist for that region. And then we've also got Christy, who supports the Western, South and Northern Territory as an account manager and product support. Over in New Zealand, we have Michael, who a lot of you have probably met. He's been with the company a few years now. He's our senior account manager in New Zealand and also looks after a small portion as product specialist. Another new member of the team is Wanju. He's looking after more central New Zealand as product specialist. And then Rick, who I mentioned is based in Victoria, will also be covering the very southern half of New Zealand as a product specialist to support as well. So you've got a really big team of people you can reach out to for any aspect of this. So something we also discussed on Wednesday is just the impact that telehealth is making in the world right now. It's become much more of a buzzword, not just in the audiology industry, but lots of other industries. So it makes sense that we should look into it a little bit further. So what we have to offer, first of all, is ReSound Assist and Bell-Tone Remote Care. Just to summarise, ReSound Assist and Bell-Tone Remote Care both include a live synchronous version of the system, which is called ReSound Assist Live or Bell-Tone Remote Care Live. We also have a more asynchronous remote fine-tuning platform, which we've had for a couple of years, but is an integral part of this package. And we also have the ability to utilise remote firmware updates, which can be downloaded through the app, rather than the traditional way of having to connect the hearing aids manually to the software and download the new hearing aid software updates that way. So this all together creates this really good package to be able to support your clients. And as you can see, I've mentioned both ReSound and Bell-Tone. We have exactly the same offering for both brands. So everything I'm saying about one brand also relates to the other. So just to summarize those two options again, with our asynchronous remote fine-tuning, it allows us to receive requests from our clients that they've made through the app. We can then make adjustments based on those requests and send those settings back out to their phone. They'll receive a notification telling them new settings are available. They can hit download and it'll install those new settings onto their device. The more synchronous version is more like a video call, where we can in real time connect the devices through a remote link, and we can make adjustments, getting a real-time feedback and make further adjustments accordingly. And as well, all at the same time, we're getting these visual cues and more contact with our clients to discuss extra things like counselling or answer any questions they have, as well as making fine-tuning adjustments. So just a little summary to see what you guys remember from previous training sessions. We're going to utilise this system called Poll Everywhere. So Poll Everywhere, if you just follow this website up here at the top of the screen, so if you can use your phone and just type in that link, you'll get prompted just to put in your name, just to introduce yourself, but don't worry, that's not going to pop up on the screen here today. That's just purely for the registration on there. And what you'll see then is this question. So what are some benefits of remote fine-tuning for me and my clients? So once you see that question pop up, if you can have a think and write down some benefits you can see of using different types of remote fine-tuning with your clients. So there's a lot of different benefits from our side as clinicians, but also from the client's point of view. And just let you know, as these pop up, they will just see the answer, will not see anyone's name, so it's all anonymous. Time-saving benefit, brilliant. Yeah, it's convenient, perfect. Yeah, it can be done anywhere rather than them having to travel maybe 2 or 3 hours to see you. The asynchronous in particular is quite convenient and time saving because you don't even have to have an appointment time for that. We can just send the request back and forth in whatever time suits us best. Any other benefits? Added service the clinic can offer. Yeah, that's a really good one. It's definitely something you can add into your kind of your mix of services. And hopefully after today's session, you'll see even more how this can be an added service. Anyone think of anything else? Those are some really good ones though already. Perfect, let's keep going on then. But by the end, you might have actually thought of a few more benefits after we've gone through a little bit further. So another question just to summarize from what we've learned previously. Can I remember, what do we need to use remote fine-tuning with our clients? So you should see this question now pop up on that Poll Everywhere website. So if you'd closed it already, if you can just go back into that same site you were in before, and this should pop up. So there's a lot of different little bits and pieces that we need to make sure that we can utilize remote fine-tuning with clients around the setup and the actual process. Yeah, good internet, definitely. We need to make sure that we've got a strong enough connection. Compatible devices and the app, perfect. Yeah, the app is very important in the process, so we need to make sure that they do have access to the app and they've got a compatible hearing aid. Anything else that you can remember? Oh, well remembered on the battery, yeah. So you have to have at least 25% battery life on the phone, also on the hearing aids as well. And you need to have that doing online services. The iPhone portion, that's actually important for the synchronous, but not the asynchronous. So if we want to use the live call ability, we need to have an iPhone, definitely. But if someone has another, say, Android phone that has compatibility with the Smart 3D app, then they can actually use the asynchronous version there. Yeah, and that Jane Online service is a very important one because that's what we use to create this link between the devices and your software and the app. Brilliant, good work, guys. Oh, yep, and you have to activate the feature in the software. That's a really important one. Actually, yeah, switching it on is a really good step. And also making sure you have the software on your computer as well. That's probably another good one. Perfect, thank you. So let's keep going. So if we think about the traditional patient journey that our clients move through, from first deciding they might need a little bit of help to becoming a really good hearing aid user, they're going to go through some traditional steps. So they'll first reach out to you. They'll be motivated in some way to seek some help. They'll normally have their first visit to see you and they'll get their hearing tested. They will discuss the results, decide if a device is appropriate for them, and you'll work out together what's the best solution for them. Then normally they'll return back to the clinic to be fit with the hearing aid. They will go home and try it out. And then they'll normally come back for kind of a follow-up, fine-tuning adjustments. And then hopefully, if all goes well, they will become a really good user and they'll not be without their devices. So normally where we've always seen remote fine-tuning to fit in is after that initial fit stage. So we've already tested the hearing, they've already purchased some devices, they've had their first fit, where they've then had the Jane Online service account enabled. Then they can utilize remote fine-tuning as part of their follow-up kind of package. So they can either go in face-to-face or do remote adjustments or a combination of the two, depending on the particular client. So this is a great way of giving extra contact between you and your clients, because rather than waiting, say, 2 weeks, for example, before they come back for follow-up, you've got the opportunity to check in with them in that middle process to make sure they get the most out of that, say, face-to-face follow-up. But in an ideal world, what we would like is that during the first fit for that client, they've had everything sorted, they've been tested, fit with an appropriate hearing aid, and they've had that Jane Online Services account loaded into the fitting and the feature switched on. That means then, because they've already got it enabled, then if they need some help, you could book a time for a live assistance video call, for example, and then go ahead with the video call when that day and time comes. If they haven't been already enabled with it, because there will be some people out there where, say, this isn't something you'd looked at before, and it's only because of how big telehealth in general has become in the last couple of months that you've maybe only just considered it. If you've got someone who was pre-fit before you got access to Jane Online Services, and they want to do a remote adjustment afterwards, what you could do is still schedule the appointment. They could drop the hearing aids into you or ship them in. You could activate the feature and then post them back out to them, or the client come and pick them up again. Then you could do that video call afterwards. It's not the ideal scenario. Obviously, we'd rather have the client already activated and being able to use the process the way it's designed to, but it is a backup option. So the benefits of this for the asynchronous and synchronous as a follow-up method could be the fact that we've got these visuals, so you can get much more comprehensive care, adding that package into it. Someone said earlier in Poll Everywhere that it's time saving, it's much quicker for both you and the clients. It can be done anywhere, so it's very convenient, but also it means that you can actually get the right feedback on settings you've changed in that client's real life situation, not in the perfect listening environment that normally we have in a clinic. You get instantaneous feedback, so normally you can get the issue sorted a lot quicker rather than, say, a lot of back and forth. And a nice thing about the system is that it's fully integrated in the software, so We don't have to learn how to use other systems. We don't have to have extra apps or extra fitting softwares. It's all built in together. But there are a couple of challenges with this current approach. So one is that it does still involve a couple of first appointments. It involves a client coming in for the first assessment and then coming in again for their fitting appointment, which most people are probably happy to do, but there may be some that even coming in for those first couple of appointments might be a challenge if, say, they have really poor mobility or they live really far away. Another challenge is that there are becoming more and more changes in the industry and a lot more kind of fully online based hearing aid sales. So it's something that we do need to think about and see, okay, how can we offer a similar type of end result? And with the current approach, it's not a very revenue generating feature. It's more about follow up and helping your clients, and something that we can definitely add as an extra service, as mentioned earlier. But it doesn't really help with getting those new fittings into the clinic, which is something that some people are thinking about right now in this current time where people maybe haven't been as keen to come in for a hearing aid fitting. So we've taken another look at the patient journey and seen, is there any other way that we can use this feature to help clients who maybe this isn't the ideal approach for? So we have various different scenarios. So scenario one is what we've just discussed. So using the feature as a follow-up method. So we've done everything else face-to-face as standard. Scenario two is where, say, we've got a client who's already been tested, but they decided, oh, I don't really want to have to come back all this way again to be fit. Or they were tested, say, 6 months ago. Hearing hasn't changed, but they've now decided they'd like to try a hearing aid, whereas they weren't ready previously. So this way would involve us using that hearing test that we already have, using the audiogram, but doing everything else remotely from that point, including the initial fit. So we require the client to have already had a hearing test done, but we don't need anything else to be done beforehand. The third approach takes us even further. And so this is actually something we could use with clients who haven't even had a hearing test done already, but we've got a good guide as to what their needs are. So this would mean that for someone who reaches out to you and would be keen to have their hearing tested and be fit with devices, but aren't in a position to easily come into the clinic, this does give us options to be able to help those clients to still be fit and still get benefit from some devices. So like I said, it's a different way of managing the patient journey. There are some benefits to this new approach. So one thing is it's less clinic visits. So especially at the minute when people are having to try to stay at home more, it does give them more options to still have that same service and to still be fit with devices and, you know, not suffer at home, not being able to hear their TV and getting complaints from family. Another thing, it really helps us to compete in a very changing industry. It does give us more options to help people who would like more of an online service. It helps us to differentiate as well, because it might be something that you can offer in your clinic, but someone else might not be able to offer. So it's something that you can have in your toolkit. Because we are including then those initial fits, it could be revenue generating for your clinic as well. And it may be an opportunity with your current database. So say you have a few people who decided not to go for devices when they were first tested, it may be an opportunity for them to rethink. But a nice thing about the system is that it still offers device personalization, because we are still ordering the device for that specific client, so they can still choose whatever color they want and things like that, rather than a more instant fit model where you use the stock you already have. So that still gives them the choice. So let's look a little bit more detail about how this would actually happen. So With scenario 2, so this is where we've already got the hearing test, we've got the audiogram, and it's valid. It's been done fairly recently. We know that it's accurate. So what we could do is, in the first step, this would be where we would discuss with the client the option of doing this process. So we would chat to them about, what device they feel is appropriate. We would redo things like our history taking, cozy lifestyle goals, things like that. And at this point, we would also obtain the consent portion of the remote fine-tuning system. So for anyone that already remembers or wasn't in the session the other day, quite an important part of the Jane Online Services system is that we need to get the patient consent, because there is their data from their hearing, it is being stored in a cloud-based system. So even though it's very highly encrypted, we still are storing data, so we need to make sure that we've followed the steps and got that consent. So with the system, because normally we do the consent through the fitting software, but because the client wouldn't be physically in the same room as you when you're doing that, what we've created are some email templates that you could email to the client and obtain their consent that way, just to make sure you've ticked all the same boxes. So once you've agreed on what they would like, you've done kind of pretty much the same thing you would normally do in an assessment without doing the audiogram. Then we would place the order for whatever device they've gone for. Then once it's arrived at your clinic, you would do a pre-fit on the device without the client there. So you would program it doing those kind of first fits or steps that you normally would, using their current audiogram, and taking into account some other bits and pieces about them. For example, set the patient experience level in the fitting to kind of compare best with your client. So for example, say they are a new user or a more experienced user, you're going to set it a bit differently. We would assemble as much as we possibly can at this point as well. So we would add the receivers. If it's an RIA, we would put on the dome for them. Just try and do as much as you can beforehand to save the clients having to do it. Then once we're happy it's programmed, got everything in the box ready to go, added in any other like little instruction leaflets, anything else that goes with it, we would then post that out to the clients, and then they receive it and they can unpack it all. Then what you need to do is schedule a video call with the client. So this isn't through the remote fine-tuning software. This is a standard video call, more like what we're doing right now. And this is just to make sure that the client feels comfortable, that they've got the box, they know what all's in it, that they know how to put the battery in it, how to put it in their ear, all those little bits and pieces, even making sure they've got the app downloaded and the hearing is paired to the phone, ready for the remote adjustment. After this then, that's when we would have that first then live assistance call, and we would then finish the setup. So we would check how they're finding the initial programming. We could run an in situ audiogram for verification. We'd want to run the feedback calibration, so our DFS Ultra feature. Because of the way our feedback system works, that's quite an important step. So you'd want to run that during this session too. So you just make sure they're happy with it, answer any questions they have, really do everything the same as you would normally do in a face-to-face fitting appointment, explaining your counselling aspects and just making sure they're comfortable with it all. Because this is a different approach, ideally we'd like a second consultation a couple of days after as well, just to make sure everything is still okay with that client. And then from then we would do then follow-ups as standard. So ideally you'd like one face-to-face at some point in the journey, just again to see them and just check again it's all okay. But there is nothing stopping you doing everything remotely ongoing. So that's scenario 2. Scenario 3 is very, very similar. Except in this case, we don't have the audiogram already. That's something that we have to generate during this process. So the first step is the same. We'll do the video call to get the consent, decide what device they want, and we'll go through our history taking and try and get a subjective evaluation of how their hearing levels are. Then we would do our pre-fit, but this time, because we don't have an audiogram, we will need to set one up in it. So we'll need to just put in a flat loss. I'd recommend putting in just 20 dB, just because then at least you know it's not going to over amplify if they put it in their ears before you've had the chance to tweak it. And again, we'll post it to the client. We'll do a video call just to check in to make sure they've got everything. We'll do that first consultation, but before we can do any of the fine tuning in this case, we'll definitely have to do the in situ to actually program it properly. Then again, we'll do that second consult, which will probably be even more important in this case. And again, any follow-ups onwards from this. So what I'd like to show you all is a little video that we have that explains this the remote fine tuning process when it comes to remote testing as well. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen for 1 second. I'm going to try and share my other screen and make sure the audio also works. Oh, so I'm not sure it's going to work because of the audio system I'm using. Just 1 little second. This works. Okay, so Michael, I'm just going to check with you. Can you see the video screen at the minute? Can you just check for me that everyone can see that?
Yep.
Perfect. Cool. All right, so it's going to start playing this.
With a new ReSound Assist Live, you now have the option of offering your clients remote in-ear testing and fitting appointments. By partnering with ReSound to add teleaudiology to your practice, you can enable your clients to be fitted with their first or their next hearing aid, all from the comfort of home. How it works. First, call your client and prepare them for the ReSound Assist Live video call. Remember to obtain their consent for being fitted remotely before proceeding. Then assemble and configure the hearing aid before shipping it off to the client. For existing clients, simply use the audiogram on file, provided that the audiogram is still valid. For clients without an audiogram, simply create a new audiogram to use as a base configuration. Next, ensure that both you and your client are ready to engage in a live appointment using ReSound Assist Live. Once the hearing aid has been received, schedule the live appointment. For clients with a valid audiogram, simply proceed with a remote fitting. For clients without an audiogram, where a remote in-ear test is required, ReSound Assist Live gives you the added benefit of being able to see signs or gestures made by the client when a signal is heard. Once the in-ear test is completed, continue fitting the hearing aids based on the results. Lastly, you should schedule a personal follow-up appointment when circumstances allow for in-office visits. In our ReSound Assist Live guides, you'll find more details on how to prepare yourself and your client for a successful video appointment. Step-by-step guides on both remote testing and fitting can be found online or sent to you by contacting your ReSound representative. Get started today with ReSound Assist Live.
Okay, so that's gives you a bit of an idea of what we're doing here with the system. So I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint again. Okay, so Michael, I'm just going to check with you again. Did that go back onto the PowerPoint okay?
It sure did.
Perfect, thank you. Brilliant. So just make sure I'm on the right screen. So because this is a very different approach, we really need to make sure that we're keeping those clinical standards up as much as possible. So we need to make sure that when we are making those initial phone calls, that we are doing some kind of general risk assessment, trying to do what we kind of do normally when we're taking a history, where we subjectively try to determine what sort of hearing loss that client has and any things that are out of the ordinary before we start testing. So this is a little screenshot from one of our step-by-step guides, which highlights a few things that we will probably be checking on the phone, but you would most likely use your own kind of history taking checklist that you normally use on that initial phone call. With this process as a whole, and especially for that initial fitting appointment, we're trying to keep everything as similar as possible. We want to make sure that we tick every box in exactly the same way that we would be doing if this was a face-to-face process. And that's the beauty of these video calls, that it does make that more possible than ever before. And because of the situation at the minute, we're all getting much more comfortable using these systems. So that should be the same for our clients as well. There are a few little considerations when it comes to scenario 3. So if we're trying to do the entire process remotely, including using the in situ audiometry for the hearing assessment itself, there are a few things that we need, that we're a little bit tied on. So for example, we couldn't do a super power device fitting fully remotely if we've never done a hearing test before. Seems a bit like common sense, though, partly because we need the custom-made ear mold anyway for super power fitting. We wouldn't probably want to rely on in situ audiometry for that anyway. So if it's someone who you suspect has a more severe loss, we're better sticking with the first initial assessment face-to-face. Scenario 3 is only appropriate for RIE devices. So if it's a brand new user who has a more mild and moderate suspected hearing loss that would fit into a lower medium power receiver, then this will be the perfect type of client for doing the entire process remotely. If there's someone, again, that we suspect will need a high power and ultra power receiver, again, we need to do that first assessment face-to-face before we could do the fitting or anything else remotely. And the same also applies for BTEs with thin tube. So it has to be a BTE with standard ear mold tubing for us to be able to utilise the in situ for the first assessment. That probably would be only appropriate if they'd had devices before, though, and they still had an existing ear mold that they could pop onto the mold. So ideally, really, it's the RIEs that we want to use for this system. So as I said, then if they it needs to be those more standard BTEs, and if they already have a thin tube, we would need to refit them with an RIE to make this doable. So what do we need from a hardware point of view and a software point of view to actually do this? So some of you may already be aware of this because of the previous training session, but we need to make sure that we have all of the materials required. So we need to make sure that we have a step-by-step guide, which will go through all of the checklists that we need to make sure that we do to keep, again, those clinical standards up. We have a version of the document that's designed for scenario 2, but then we also have a version which includes the in situ testing if we're wanting to do the entire process remotely. I mentioned before about that we have an email template of the consent. So this is the same consent document that we will see in the fitting software normally, but it's just a copy that can be emailed or printed so that we're not relying on the client being there during the hearing aid programming. On our website, which I will show you in a second, we have a really good checklist of steps that we need the client to follow to make sure that they are ready for that live assistance call. So there's a really good website then that will just guide them through all the little bits and pieces that we need to do. So that would be something we would want you to provide then to the client before then they open up their box and everything. It'll just help them get ready for that fitting. We've also got some other nice client brochures. So we've got a little quick guide which shows them the steps of what it's like when they're doing that live assistance call. So there's guides for you guys for how you make the call, but these are some nice ones that show the end user themselves what they have to do. It's a very simple process, but it's nice having it all laid out. We also have one for them doing the in situ testing, so how they feel about it. And I've got a nice little video again that I'll show you, which is kind of dedicated to that. And we're generating more and more materials and video content to help with this different approach to the patient journey. So I will just show you guys, let's get this next little video ready, and I'll show you the next one, which is the video showing what it's like for an end user going through the in situ process. So I'm just going to stop sharing the PowerPoint again and share the website again with you. Okay, so I'll just minimize this a little bit and I'll just play this video.
Remote in-ear testing and fitting with ReSound Assist Live. How it works. Your hearing care professional will initiate the ReSound Assist Live call at your agreed-upon date and time. Before the call, turn on and insert your hearing aids. When receiving the call, swipe to answer or tap Accept. Tap the ReSound Smart 3D icon to enable video access. Once connected, you will see your hearing care professional on the screen and hear them through your hearing aids. At any time, you can select any of the available icons to initiate a chat. Turn on or off audio and video, or hang up the call. Your hearing care professional will then connect to your hearing aids. Establishing a connection will take a minute or two, and afterwards, the voice of your hearing care professional will be routed through your iPhone or iPad speaker instead of your hearing aids. To ensure the best fit of your hearing aids, your hearing care professional will do a test with you. In the test, tones will be played in your hearing aids to test each ear separately. Before initiating the test, you agree on a verbal response or a gesture for you to confirm when you hear a tone being played. Once the test is concluded, replace the rubber dome on your hearing aid with a tulip dome that came with your hearing aid. This is to ensure an overall more comfortable fit in your ear canal when wearing your hearing aid. Your hearing care professional will continue to fine-tune your hearing aids. Before concluding your session, your hearing aids will be updated with your new settings, and you will see a progress bar appear. Once the session has ended, your hearing aids will automatically reboot, and you will receive a session ended notification on your iPhone or iPad. Tap Close to enjoy your new settings.
So that's an example of one of the videos that we've developed to try to make things easier on the clients to use this process and give them a bit of confidence. So I'm just going to show you, before I go back into the PowerPoint, I just want to show you the website that we have available for the clients to be able to, again, walk them through the process. So this little page here, it's just on our website, but it goes through different explanations of ReSound Assist Live, what it is, how it works. And then it goes through some little bits and pieces like how to get started, what the benefits are. And then it starts walking into those steps that we need them to do, which normally we would show them face-to-face at the fitting appointment. So these are the things we can still show them over that first video call before we do the first live assistance call. But it's nice just to have the little videos if we're struggling to show them with the camera. So there's a video on how to put their batteries in, or how to charge them if they've purchased a rechargeable model, how to turn the hearing aids on, how to put them in their ears, how to download the app, and then how to pair them up to their phone. Then it starts telling you about then how that first live appointment will work. So whether we're doing one including a hearing assessment or just fine tuning. So we've tried to do as much as we can to make things as easy as possible, both on you and the clients. And we're keep working on this more and more and seeing what we can do again to condense these materials to make it an easy little package to be able to give to the clients. So I will just go back into the PowerPoint again. While I'm doing that, one thing that the little video really nicely showed was the importance of changing the dome. So with the dome on the devices for doing the in situ, we do recommend using a power dome, so one of the little double domes, for the testing, just to get as good a seal as we possibly can, to make sure we're getting as accurate results as possible. But then we're recommending then afterwards to use a tulip dome just to make it easier because it fits so many ears, and then we can change as necessary then from there. But that's why in the little video it shows the client how to change the dome, because unless their hearing suits a power dome, they will have to change it to another one after testing. So if we carry on in the PowerPoint, so other things that we need to do to get this moving are compatible hearing aids. So someone kindly mentioned this earlier in the things that we need to get going. So all of these hearing aids will work with some form of remote fine tuning, including LIGO, which is our newer free to client device. But LIGO only works with the asynchronous option. It doesn't work with the live option. So it wouldn't be appropriate for this scenario 2 and scenario 3. It would work if we're just using remote fine tuning as part of scenario 1 for follow-ups, but not for doing an initial fit remotely. But any of these other platforms will all work with the full system. Next, we need to make sure they have a compatible app. So they have to have the Smart 3D app and the newest version. They also have to make sure that they have an Apple device at the minute, because the synchronous version relies on the direct audio streaming portion, and we managed to get it working with Apple a little bit earlier than the Android version. You also need to make sure then that you have the newest version of the fitting software as well to use the synchronous remote fine tuning, so for ReSound Assist Live. So the newest version is version 1.6. So if you're not sure which version of the software you have, if you just hover your mouse over the Smart Fit icon in your in NOAA, it'll tell you what version it is. Like I said before, we also have this available for bell tone. So you can see here the similar bell tone devices to those ReSound devices we've just talked about. For example, bell tone Amaze is very similar to ReSound Lynx Quattro. So these have all the same capabilities. The HearMax app is the bell tone version of the Smart 3D app. So you just need the newest version of that. You also need an Apple device for this version to work as well. And you need the newest version of the Solus Max software, version 1.6. So those are the bits and pieces from a hardware and a software point of view that you need as well. So let's have a little look again just at those steps and see if there's anything else that we need to be aware of during this process. So step one, this was our discussion with the clients. So this could be either with new clients, say we're seeing someone for an assessment, and we start discussing the possibility of doing the rest of their journey online at that face-to-face appointment. So then we would just discuss again as usual what device they want, do all our usual kind of assessment checklist. Or it could be with previously tested clients, for example. This could be, using some sort of marketing campaign on your current database to advertise this new technology. We can maybe search for people who were tested within the last year, for example, but didn't go for devices, or potential clients who are ready for maybe potentially new devices. So the next stage would be making sure we have that consent. So either a printout that's signed face-to-face or done via email. And like I said, we have that template ready to go. Then we need to make sure that once we've received the devices, so once you guys have ordered them from us and we've shipped them out to your clinic, you would then program them as normal. So if you have the audiogram already, you'll use that as part of the pre-fit process. Or if you haven't got an audio already, you could just input just a 20 dB flat level and use that to program it initially. And then put everything together, put the receivers on, put the power domes on if we're going to be doing it in situ. Just try and do as much as physically possible beforehand. And maybe include any printouts of any of those materials that will help guide the client, or a list of some of those different websites or YouTube videos, which we can provide you with. And then next you ship the device out to the client and wait for them to receive them. Then for the initial setup, so I mentioned before that it's worth having a live assistant, a live call, live video call, not in the live assistant software. It's worth doing this beforehand just to make sure that the client has everything. You take them through the website, which I just showed you, that will go through the different little bits and pieces, like how to put the battery in. Make sure they're feeling comfortable with it all. So that's where having another video platform would be a good option. And it's something that could even be done while you're confirming the live assistance call appointment. And it may be something that your front of house staff can maybe help with. They might enjoy being able to help the clients with those first little steps. Then you would have your first and second live assistance calls where we're actually going to connect up the devices. And you're using exactly the same process for connecting as we would if we were doing a live assistance for a follow-up, making sure we've already got it activated on the hearing aids before they're posted, making sure that we've booked in the time with them and that we've hit that start live assistance big red button in the fitting software, which will call the client. Then we can connect the devices and make whatever adjustments are appropriate. But in this case, because we will probably be wanting to do an in situ, either because we don't already have the audio or potentially as a verification method as well, that's then an extra step that we would do in the process. So for any of you that haven't looked at this before, in our fitting software, when you're on the fitting screen, in the top right-hand corner, there's a button called Menu. If you click on Menu, you'll see in situ audiometry listed, and it'll take you to this screen here, where we can do our audiometry either manually, or there's also a guided version. Then we would do our follow-ups, and again, the follow-ups will be pretty standard, the sort of discussions we would normally have in a follow-up. Like I said a couple of times, we want to make sure the process is as similar to the normal initial fits and follow-ups as possible, making sure we still do all our discussions and counselling. So with our follow-ups, we could do this face-to-face, maybe a time that's more suitable that the client can come in to be able to do that follow-up face-to-face. We could use live assistance, or we also have this little rate my sound functionality in the app where it'll pop up 3 days. Is that 3 days is the default time, which can be changed. but it'll normally pop up 3 days after some adjustments have been made, where the client's asked to pick a happy or sad face to tell you how they're getting on. So it's another little extra follow-up method that can be included in there. So I've just got a couple little case studies. So we're going to use that Poll Everywhere website again. So if you could open that back up again on your phone, that would be great. So for our first client, we've got Margaret. So Margaret, she's 85. She lives in a care home, but she's visited really frequently by family members. She's been wearing her current devices for the past 10 years. So these are ITEs. But her family are really keen for her to be fit with some newer devices. She'd like to continue using IT devices just because it's what she's used to. She has very poor mobility, so it's not easy for her to get into the clinic, but she can make it in. It just takes a little bit more organising with the family members too. So thinking about, I'm just going to go back to Margaret for a second, thinking about Margaret and the requirements that she has, what scenario of 1, 2, and 3 do you think would be the most appropriate for her? So in Poll Everywhere, I'm just going to go over here. So in Poll Everywhere, if you could just type in scenario 1, 2, or 3, and maybe a quick comment as to why you think that's the case. So keeping in mind that with Margaret, she would prefer ITAs, and she hasn't got the best mobility, but she can physically get into the clinic if she has to. And she is a previous hearing aid user, so she will be able to manage fairly well if we get her something a similar style to what she's had before. So if you can have a little think, and if you can pop in something in the in Poll Everywhere there for me, it'd be brilliant. Even if you don't have time to type in a full reason why, but even just put 1, 2, or 3 in there would be great. Oh, you're leaving me hanging today. And this is actually quite a new case study we haven't done before internally either. So if any of you guys from the GN Hearing team, if any of you guys have any thoughts on this as well, I'd really value your input too, because this is something most of you guys haven't seen before either. Wow, everyone's being very quiet today. So I might just answer this one for you. So with Margaret, because of the fact that she wants an ITA, it's not going to be really ideal for her to do the entire process remotely, even though it would be nice because she has that poor mobility. It would be ideal for her to be able to do the whole process from home. But because she needs that that custom device, we would need her to come in for those that first appointment. Yes, someone's put out there. Yep, so she needs to come in because she does need that impression taken, for example, to even get the device made in the first place. And for her as well, because of that, though, we could do the assessment and everything in one go. And then we could potentially do the fitting remotely, then because we would have the audio, or we could just do scenario 1 and get her in for the first 2 appointments and but make then everything else at home. Yeah, so all we could have to just do the first appointment and everything else she could do from home. And because she has several family members that come to visit her, she may not have an iPhone herself, but maybe one of her family members does. Maybe they have one to be able to give her a hand as well. So when they come to visit, they could then schedule the fitting or the follow-up for her then remotely to be able to do then the rest of it while they're there with her for support. Cool. So We're almost out of time. I'm just going to very quickly show you the last little scenario. So the last one here we have is Mark. So Mark's 54. He works really long hours as a brand manager. He has very little downtime, and when he does have time, he wants to spend it with his family. He's very into technology, and he always has the newest iPhone. That's the key word there. 3 years ago, Mark had his hearing tested. He was found to have a bilateral, mild, high-frequency hearing loss, but he never went for devices at the time. He didn't feel ready for them. He's starting to realise now he's having a little bit more difficulty, and he would really like to have some help. So for Mark, does anyone, oh sorry, one other little point on Mark. He has such little downtime that he wants to be able to spend as much as he can at home. He doesn't want to be having to come into the clinic if he doesn't have to. So for Mark, if you can go back into poll everywhere, and if you can try and think of which scenario would suit Mark best. So I'll give you a little second. So you can see someone's already put in scenario 3. So if anyone wants to give any details, if you know why they think that, or if you disagree. Yep, so I can see Anthea has added scenario 3 into the little chat function as well on the side of Teams. So yeah, completely agree with you. Scenario 3 definitely be perfect for Mark because he's into technology. He'll be able to manage all the different bits and pieces. He's had his hearing tested a few years ago, so we would want an up-to-date one, but we can get an idea from that though that he would qualify for this remote fine-tuning full process because we know he would fit into the low power range because it was a mild loss. So we could do an RIE device with a low power receiver on it for him. And he'd be able to follow all those little guided videos very easily. And then because he can come into the clinic if he wants to, then we could do a face-to-face follow-up down the track if he felt like it was needed. So yeah, so someone just put in there, do you have an audio to start with? Yep, so we'd be able to at least program it up with his older hearing test and have that as a baseline and then do the in situ as kind of like a reassessment then. Perfect. And then because he's got the iPhone, he will do the synchronous live assistance call. Brilliant. So just to summarise, so with ReSound Assist as a whole, there's a lot of different ways that we can use this system with our clients at different stages in their patient journey. We can keep in touch with our clients like we've never been able to before. So this is useful kind of as part of what we're already doing or to take things in a different direction. And it's really a good opportunity for us to keep up to date and to compete in a very changeable industry. And to be able to help you guys in that process of implementing it, we do have a whole toolkit of materials between printed documents, step-by-step guides, and lots of little videos to be able to help clients. We have different ones like even how to change filters and little bits and pieces like that, just to be able to give you a few extra bits and pieces to be able to help your clients kind of along the way. So thank you for your time this afternoon. So I'm just going to give this a chance to ask any questions. So I can see that Matthew has already added one to the chat. Are we going to be able to use Android devices soon? So with the Android devices, they are working on it, but we don't have a timeline on when it'll be ready for the live assistance just yet. But we will keep you updated as soon as we get some info. Any other questions that anyone would like to ask regarding what we've covered today or about the system in general, like what Matthew's just asked? Brilliant. So if you do think of any questions afterwards, or if you would like any of these materials or would like some guidance with rolling this out in your clinic, feel free to reach out to your local account manager or product specialist, and we'll be able to help you through the process. So yeah, looking forward to hearing from you. And so I can just see Matthew's asked, can we download the new software online? Yes, we'll be able to provide you with the website. So the website, I'll actually just type it into the chat here because then you can all have it. So it's just called helpdesksupporttools.com/ReSound. And it's the same except for /belltone at the end for the Belltone version of the software. So that's if you just go to that website, then you will be able to download the newest version of the fitting software. But again, reach out to your local account manager or product specialist if you'd like the website emailed or anything to you. Just give another minute for any other questions. It'd be great even if anyone has any comments that if they've already been looking at something like this in their clinic, because it is a different approach. Some people I know have already started investigating this. So if you've any feedback already on utilising this type of technology in this way, it'd be really interesting to hear. So it doesn't seem like any more questions are coming through. So what I'll do is I'll just finish the recording and then we will end the session here.